is tonight. Meanwhile, back to the NFL and the biggest drama of the offseason, which, of course, is Aaron Rodgers, who remains engaged in a public standoff with the Packers. And we are officially less than a month away from the start of Packers training camp, which is July 27th. The big question, of course, is whether or not Rodgers will show up, and very quickly, because no one expects this to be a factor here. But, Jeff, I'm sure a lot of fans have seen somewhere online this week, July 2nd, this whole thing could be resolved by July 2nd. Very quickly, what is that about and why is it so unlikely?
Well, Greeny, basically, players this year also have the opportunity to opt out due to COVID, something that we don't expect the number to be nearly as high as it was last year. There has been sort of this idea floated that Aaron Rodgers could opt out due to COVID and kind of just wiggle his way out of some financial situations this year and maybe save on some of that money. I'm told that will not happen, though. I'm told that's not a consideration for Aaron Rodgers and not something that he is even thinking about doing for that July 2nd deadline. So we can put that aside.
It would be binding, which is to say if he opted out, there's no opting back in. He would be making a decision this week that he's not playing football this year. There are financial ways in which it would be beneficial to him, but it seems so unlikely as to not be worth discussing anymore. So, Dominique, I find it fascinating. As we sit here, we got Tom Brady. He's on the shop. He's having the time of his life. He's singing Hamilton in a golf cart with James Corden. He's getting set to go play in this golf match with Phil Mickelson, who's like Mr. Laughs. He's like a late-night talk show host. In the meantime, Aaron Rodgers, he's holding out. He's angry. He's sort of, bitterly entrenched in this thing. He's going to play golf with Bryson DeChambeau, who is, a human embodiment of where fun goes to die. So, Nick, I'm trying to juxtapose these two guys right now, Rodgers and Brady, and it just seems like they're in very different places.
I mean, I don't even care what the question is. I just enjoy that tight 1 minute of comedy you just delivered right there. It was fantastic. But Aaron Rodgers did host Jeopardy, which I could say is him having fun. But compared to the shop, Jeopardy is boring compared to the shop, so I still think that Aaron Rodgers, you're right. Aaron Rodgers is kind of in a stuffy moment in his career, and he's probably looking at Tom Brady, seeing him at 43, having the time of his life. I think that could embolden Aaron Rodgers a little bit, recognizing that could be part of his future. He doesn't have to be this angry kind of confrontational guy who's doing physics equations with Bryson DeChambeau. He could be drunk throwing Super Bowl trophies across a river just like Tom Brady. So I think that if that requires him to hold out this year, he might be willing to do that.
I'm with you. And again, there's no disrespect intended. DeChambeau's personality is what it is, and Phil Mickelson is the human embodiment of being drunk and throwing the trophy from one boat to another on the river. So, Rob Ninkovich, what do you think?
I think Tom Brady's going to try and implement Phil on some avocado ice cream or the TB12 method or growing your own plants in your backyard. Listen, I think that Tom is having the time of his life right now, and Aaron Rodgers is probably looking at Tom like, man, he went to another team that was loaded and won a Super Bowl. I want to do that too. So, look, I think Tom's having the time of his life, and Aaron is looking at that and probably wants to go have the time of his life. So we'll see. Time will tell if Aaron Rodgers can go somewhere else and have the time of his life. But right now, I don't think he's having the time of his life.
Nick, final word.
Aaron Rodgers is kind of already on a team that's a little bit loaded. That's all. Yeah. Just that team is a Super Bowl caliber team right now.
Nick, you disagree with that?
Well, they went for a field goal instead of a touchdown. So
well, that's bad decision making. That has nothing to do with them being loaded.
Maybe that's why you don't want to play there. Just let you know about that one.
No risk it, no biscuit, right? Got to go to Tampa Bay. Everybody play with Bruce Arians and risk it and get them biscuits.
Yeah, and look, and Brady went right there, by the way, in that pre-match, PR thing they did. He said Aaron Rodgers, he's going to lay up because, they don't go for it. So believe me, he is very much aware of that. He said it, not me. I can't take credit for that one. Anyway, can I take you to the disaster that was the Yankees weekend very briefly here? Yankees, Red Sox. Yanks have their ace on the mound yesterday. Garrett Cole trying to avoid a sweep in Boston, and Garrett Cole was terrible. This is the bottom of the first, no score. That's the first pitch to the leadoff man. And that's Enrique Hernandez, and that's a home run. And then later, we're still in the same inning. 2-on Rafael Devers. Are you kidding? That's a 3-run shot. So the Red Sox up 4-0 in the first. Cole, first time he's ever given up 2 home runs in the first inning. He would pitch 5 innings, give up 5 runs and 3 home runs. Top of 7, Yankees are down 6-2, 2 out, and the bases loaded for Aaron Judge, who had already hit a 2-run home run in the game, but that one has popped straight up. That's the inning, and that's your ball game. Red Sox win it 9-2. They sweep the Yankees for the second time this season. Boston has now won 7 straight against the Yanks dating back to last year. It's time for Boston's second longest winning streak in the rivalry over the last 30 years. It's also the first time since 2009 they've won the first 6 meetings against the Yanks in a season. As we continue, attention fantasy football players. One member of our crew thinks you should.
Hogs, they came out aggressive. They threw a big punch. Giannis dunks it with a right hand. How do you stop that freight train? Middleton buries another one.
Whoa, the Chris Middleton show.
We just stuck with it. Kept trying to grind them down. Finally, they started dropping for me at the right time, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, the Chris Middleton show is right. It was the Bucks with the win last night in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. They take back home court advantage, and maybe most significantly of all, Trae Young with that ankle injury. If he's not at his best, then obviously that's big trouble for Atlanta team that depends so much on him. And so, PJ, let me just make a statement here as we were talking earlier in the hour, and you just tell me, if I were to say the Bucks will go as far as Chris Middleton takes them, how would you react to that?
They need more than Chris Middleton. I love Chris Middleton, but no, they're going to need, if chalk holds true right now and it's Phoenix and the Bucks, they're going to need all hands on board. Drew Holiday's going to have to shoot the ball well, which he's been inconsistent with. You know he's going to defend, but he's going to have to shoot it better. And their bigs are going to have to do a job. I mean, it'll be great. Brook Lopez, I think, will be a bigger factor. He and a couple bigs, and Bobby Portis had his best game last night to throw against DeAndre Ayton in that front line. So I think they're going to need everybody on board if it's them against Phoenix and if they're going to win, not just Chris, as good as I expect him to be.
Fair enough. And maybe, Seth, I would spin it slightly differently because this is really what I'm trying to get at. Most of the world would look at it and say, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the guy who's got to drag that team to a championship. And what I'm trying to get at here, Seth, is the reality of it that Middleton is the guy who really will make the difference in that team winning or not?
Look, I disagree with Perk. I still think it's Giannis. Giannis gets a defensive rebound. It's a fast break. Giannis impacts the game defensively. Giannis scores so many baskets that you can't create. He just makes plays. He makes plays no one else can make. Look, Middleton made big-time shots, and he's improved his ability to beat you off the bounce and make plays and create space, and that's great. They have great ball movement, but Giannis is just different. He does things you can't coach. He does things that, you know what, you cannot scout. He makes plays that are undescribable. So, to me, we look, the guy had 33 yesterday and 12 or something? I mean, he does that every single night. Middleton had a great game. But Giannis does it every single night. This Batman Robin stuff, come on, Perk. One guy does it every single night.
Perk will join us a little later. We can debate that.
It's easier for him to do it when those guys are making shots. The middle's open and Giannis is playing downhill. He's a totally different player. The nights those guys don't make shots, poor Giannis looks like he's playing in quicksand. You're right, Seth, he still scores, but it's so much tougher.
Yeah. Well, and then just to throw it in here, and I'm not trying to find a way to tear down a team or a player on the night after they just won a road game in the NBA playoffs. But the one thing is, if you're going to get late and close in these games, can you depend on a guy who you can't send to the line? He's 6 of 13 from the line last night. The fans are in his head. He shot an air ball last night. PJ, that feels to me like in a close game, that's a factor.
Well, it's definitely a factor, but again, he may get a rebound, he may do something else. That's right. He impacts the game. I mean, you're talking a 2-time MVP, but somebody else is going to be taking the last shot unless it's a downhill transition and they can't reach out and tackle him.
Yeah, so there you have it. So, you know what, we talked about this on the radio show last week. Just quickly here, the Suns have a nice cushion in the Western Conference. The Bucks have taken home court advantage. Right now, because it feels so wide open, Seth, if I were to ask you, who's going to win the championship? Right now, who's the favorite to win the championship this year? Who you got?
I got the Phoenix Suns. I love the way they play offensively and defensively. They move the ball. They move people. DeAndre Ayton's been terrific. But, if you try to take Booker out of the game and now all of a sudden everyone's playing 4-on-4, the floor is wide open, Ayton becomes a factor running the floor, gets some extra possessions. Chris Paul is on a mission. I like this Phoenix team offensively and defensively to win it all.
How about you, PJ?
Greeny, I wouldn't invest a penny against either team, to be honest with you, but I'll go with Milwaukee because I think overall there's more experience. There's no conference finals and playoff experience, but they've got a couple big guys to throw at DeAndre Ayton. You're not going to stop Devin Booker and Chris Paul, but that defensive backcourt of the Bucks with Holiday and the length Middleton has, they can make Booker and Paul work. So I'm just hoping if it's those two, we're looking at 6 or 7 games, and I think it could be potentially a great finals.
We'll find out. Maybe Atlanta and the Clippers will have something to say about that. Guys, stay close by. Much more basketball as we continue. And a reminder, we've got the West. Game 5 tonight. Suns, Clippers, 9 Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app. Suns, of course, up 3-1. SportsCenter with Stephen A.